have you ever looked at your life and thought, I know I'm meant for more. I just don't know what that more is. Or maybe you know exactly what you want, but fear, uncertainty, or just life itself has made it hard to move. Hey, y'all. Welcome back to the podcast. This is a space for real conversations, real growth, and coming back home to yourself. I'm your host, London. And here we talk about what it actually looks like to navigate life as a woman who's holding a lot, doing a lot, and somewhere along the way may have forgotten herself in process. If you've been feeling overwhelmed, disconnected, or like you've been pouring it to everyone else but yourself, you're in the right place. Let's get into today's episode. All right, welcome back to the podcast. I'm so excited about today's conversation because I think this is one that so many women need to hear. So, have you ever looked at your life and thought, I know I'm meant for more. I just don't know what that more is. Or maybe you know exactly what you want, but fear, uncertainty, or just life itself has made it hard to move. So today's guest is Debbie. And during our first conversation, one thing that really stood out to me was how honest she was about just navigating change, rebuilding after unexpected setbacks, and then learning how to reinvent herself. So, Debbie, thank you very much for being here today.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm looking forward to our conversation.
Yes, me too. So I would like to start at the beginning. So can you tell everyone a little bit about yourself and the journey that brought you to where you are today?
Starting from the beginning. So in 19, yes, I was born in the 1900s.
Oh my gosh, my kids say that about me, like, Ma, you're old. I'm like, shh.
Yeah, I had a pretty typical Gen X upbringing, which I feel like was sprinkled with a little bit of trauma. But we didn't talk about those things, right? We had to keep checking the boxes and moving along. And then I never really was. It's funny now because I look at my life and I really like a good plan. I like to have an idea of what's coming down the pipe. But when I look back on my life, it's like I didn't really plan. I just kind of did the next thing until I got to a certain point, right? I raised my kids. I always share with them, I feel like I did better than what I lived through, but I'm sure I wasn't perfect. So feel free to talk about me in therapy. And then as they started to get older, and I started thinking like, okay, well, what's next? Once I'm not being a mom full time, what's that going to look like? And a little bit of panic started setting in. I had a few big life events that also kind of shook my roots and, well, actually shook the whole tree, which made me wonder, like, what am I supposed to be doing here? Like what you had just said, like, I feel like there's something more supposed to be happening. But then also like, Debbie, who are you to be showing up like that? Like, you're nobody's special. Like, what do you mean this more thing? But I kept feeling this in the background. And as the life kept lifing and throwing me from side to side, I started doing a little more work in therapy and I started getting a little more clear about who I was and how I had handled some things and eventually led me to a few pivotal moments. 2020 was really, I say 2017 was a very pivotal time in my life, but I was still the consummate Gen Xer, right? I was still shoving down all of those feelings and bad experiences and checking the boxes. And it slowly started to go sideways in late 2019 when I describe it as I was in a slow stumble where I was still upright and still handling things, but I was about ready to faceplant. And then the pandemic came along, right? And
Yeah.
I know that was a horrific time for a lot of people, but for me, I always see it as a gift because we all had to stop and go to our rooms and think about what we had done.
Literally,
right?
for real.
Literally, right. And so that's what it was for me. I was like, okay, well, oh, now what? My job, I live in a resort town, so my job kind of went away with the fact that everything was closed down. So what is that? Was I really fulfilled? That more started getting louder in the back because sure, I go back to a job, but I was less drawn to just going and finding a job or a way to make money. And I was more drawn to how can I contribute? Like it was obvious we were all going through this big thing, right? It was such a weird time. We are having this huge experience collectively as a globe. And I was fascinated by it. Like, there's got to be a reason this is happening. I'm not saying there's a reason for everything, but that particular time, I'm like, this has got to be happening for a reason. What is it? And how can, and everyone was talking about, right, the old normal, and can't we wait to get back to the old normal? And I was like,
And what
do you guys remember? Do you remember that old normal? It wasn't really that great. And why do we want to go back? And can't we like think of something better? And what is this whole idea of normal anyways? And how problematic is that? And just the veil started to lift for me.
Yeah.
Like seeing, I know people say like, well, there are so many broken systems. Sure, that's what you think at first. But then as you start looking at them more closely, you're like, oh, actually, everything's working exactly the way it was designed to work. But is that really helping any of us? And I don't know, that was kind of a convoluted way to get back to like, it was a full life reboot for me in 2020. You know, I was starting over again as my kids were leaving the house.
Yeah.
And I didn't have a job. And
so it was like everything was happening right at once.
And luckily I was already in therapy when 2020 hit. So like
something to kind of cushion the fall a little bit.
Well, ironically, the therapist I was working with before 2020 ghosted me during the pandemic.
Oh, wow.
So I figure she just had big things going on too. So I was able to find somebody else.
Thankfully. I do like to believe, though, that everything does happen for a reason. I feel like when one door closes, another one is open and somewhere else. But you can't get there until that door closes, you know?
And it's really hard to say that when we're facing so many heavy things.
Yeah.
You know, like just the violence and mayhem. It's really hard to say that that's happening for a reason. I mean, I might recognize that is what needs to happen for enough people to recognize that we need serious change.
Yeah.
It's just not something that I have an easy.
Yeah, it's like going through it in that moment. I will agree. Going through it in that moment is kind of hard. I remember my dad used to be like, well, you know, London, everything happens for a reason. And, you know, I'm like, well, Dad, right here, right now, I don't like it. But then afterwards, I'm like, oh, in hindsight, if this didn't happen, this wouldn't. I wouldn't.
Yeah, it's definitely easier
XYZ.
to recognize in hindsight.
Yeah. So what season of life would you say you're in right now?
Oh, that's interesting. I was just thinking of it in terms of golf, like I'm on the back nine, right? I'm postmenopausal, empty nester. I often say I'm embracing my crone years, you know, the wise old woman who lives in the bog. But I feel like there's negative. I feel like that's an amazing image, right? Other people feel like, oh, that's kind of negative. You're not a crone. I'm like, I won't want to be. I'm an aspiring crone. Maybe I'm not that wise yet, but I'm working on it. And I feel like there's been a lot of reframe around this time of life for women. You know, it used to be, you know, you're washed up, you're not necessary anymore, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just go sit on a porch somewhere with some sweet tea and knit something.
Mm-hmm. Something.
I don't know how to knit.
Me either. I tried though. I did try. But
I have an embroidery kit that I just bought off of TikTok that's sitting on my dock.
TikTok got you too.
TikTok gets me regularly.
OMG. TikTok has my daughter in a chokehold.
It is way too easy. Anyways. Yeah, I feel like there's been a reframe as opposed to going and sitting in a corner and entertaining your remains of your life. We do have wisdom to impart. We do have experience and we can help. And I feel like even historically, anthropologically, I don't know, like old civilizations, you know, that might have been more matriarchal. Yeah. They did look for the postmenopausal, the older, wiser women to help run the village. Yeah. You know, take care of the babies, teach the younger women how to navigate life. And so I like to think I'm helping other women recognize that for themselves, just trying to embrace it for myself and talk about it as much as possible. Yeah. I'm one of those friends that have definitely like, I don't want to talk about the housewives of this or that. I don't want to talk about the weather. Like, let's go there. Let's talk about what's going on in the world and what's going on in your life. And yeah,
What surprised you the most about this transition?
that I'm still doing it. Right. I started in 2020, and so many times I think, oh, this is hard. It's uncomfortable so often. Maybe I should just go find a job. And every time I think about doing that, something happens, those little synchronicities, those signs like, oh,
Yep.
like something falls into place. Or someone on my newsletter list will respond and say, like, oh my gosh, this was so great and so helpful. It was just the right time. Thank you. And I'm like, oh, just that one person is enough to be like, okay,
Keep you going.
yeah, thank you. I
Yeah.
needed that.
Yeah. I like that. I know one thing we talked about during the interview when we first spoke was how life, this is kind of like what we just were talking about, doesn't always go according to plan. So sometimes we're forced to kind of pivot, sometimes we choose to. So, what has reinvention looked like for you?
A lot of getting comfortable with that uncomfiness.
I think that's important. I think that's really important, being comfortable in the
Mhm.
discomfort.
Because we're not really good at it. And I think that's one thing, all these trials that we're going through as a collective is starting to get us used to it. Like, we don't know.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much uncertainty going on. And how do you get comfortable in that? How do you get okay with the idea, like, well, I don't know exactly what's going to happen, but I'm confident that I know who I am
Mm-hmm.
and what's important to me. And I can continue to make choices in my daily life that support that person and her values, and hopefully support other people in my local vicinity, being in
Mm-hmm.
my physical space or whether it's people that I'm connecting with on the internet, so that we can all remember that who we are and what's important to us and make choices based on that, as opposed to, oh, we don't know. And what is this person or this leader going to do? I think we're all being called to be leaders
In our own
during
way,
this time.
right?
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. And I agree with the being comfortable in the discomfort and that whole space of uncertainty. And an article came to my mind called Impermanence. But the article is just about it's about flowing water, basically. And so when you look at the water, from the river, you're wondering, like, obviously, is it the same water? No, it's constantly flowing,
Mm-hmm.
right? So the water is changing literally every second. It looks the same in that moment, but it's constantly flowing. And we're okay with it. It brings us peace in some sense if you like water. And I love water. So you go by the river, you go by any ocean, any large body of water, and it's constantly flowing. It's that impermanence, but it's still calming when you just
Mm-hmm.
accept it as is.
And the one thing I like about a river or a creek, it's also changing because it doesn't always know which way it's going to go.
Yep.
And it's flowing, right? It hits the rock, it might go this way, it might go that way. Or if it's fuller than it normally is, it might
Yep.
get out of its banks and need to find a new path, but it's never really sure. It just starts, or if you start a trickle with your hose, right? You might think it's going to go one direction, but it might also start going a different direction.
Yep. I'll share that article with you. I love it. It's something that I really like. Because when I read it, I was just like, oh, wow. Because at first, when somebody shared it with me, I was like, what are you trying to say?
Yeah.
Like, what's all this about? But then after I got finished, I was just like, oh, okay. That's really deep.
Deep like the water.
Right. Now, something I hear women say all the time, something I used to say myself too. Once I have confidence, I'll start. Once I know exactly what I'm doing, then I'll move. Literally, right? Or I'll be happy when. That's the big one. I'll be happy when. But I found like literally the opposite to be true because when we're talking about clarity, it usually comes before action, right? So what are your thoughts on that?
I it's along the lines of that uncertainty, right? We want to be certain before we take the next step. We want to be certain that we're capable or we're the ones that should be taking and so we're second guessing ourselves and waiting for just the right moment or trying to make the circumstance perfect to take the
Mhm.
next step. And what I have found is it's often just the complete opposite. Taking the step, I'm like, I'm just going to try this. And maybe in the process of trying the thing, something else is illuminated or shows
Mhm.
its little head like, oh, wait, you're close, but have you thought about this over here? That's very adjacent to maybe the thing you were trying. And so I feel like it's a little bit of, you start walking and the path presents itself. I kind of alluded to it a little bit, like every once in a while when I feel like maybe I
Giving
should just
up.
give up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Something will happen to let me know, like, no, you're still on the path. Just keep taking steps. And I wrote my newsletter. I do a bi-monthly newsletter because weekly is just too much. And we all have too many emails. And so I
Mhm.
use the moon as a guide. So I do a full moon and new
Mhm.
moon email. And I was just doing the full moon newsletter and talking about, I was celebrating because I finished a big project that I've been working on forever. And so, right, like I finish it, I should be excited. And instantly I'm nauseous. Oh my gosh, now I have to put it out there. And it's the whole, who am I? And is it really ready? Should I like do this and that? And all the second guessing. And the universe, this morning, before I wrote the newsletter, I was listening to Channing Nichols. This makes me sound like I'm very woo-woo and astrologer. I'm not. I'm interested in all of that. Like, I listen to her podcast because I love her and it's fun. But she was talking about a quote calling it was along the lines that humility is the key to success. So you have to be willing to be humbled, feel that cringe of like, oh my gosh, I'm putting it out there. Like and in part because I really want it to be helpful. I
Yeah.
care. And so I just like, oh, working through all of that. And also in the moment of she's talking about planetarily in the stars, which I'm not going to know the specifics because I don't retain any of that. I'm just listening to it for
Okay.
for the flavor. But she says we are entering a phase that's very ripe for leadership and creativity. So if you're feeling called to do something, like now is the time. The planets are telling you. We are telling you, yes, you should do it. And join me in this feeling of nauseousness and caring, because that's how we're going to create change together,
Mm.
is doing the thing and being uncomfortable and surviving, right? We're going to feel uncomfortable and it's either going to be successful and people are going to love it, or I'm going to do something else. It's not the end of the world. And feeling that cringe and feeling uncomfortable is not necessarily a bad thing.
It's not. I don't think it's a bad thing at all. Something you said just like dawned on me, and I was like, wow, I never thought about it that way. When you said we have to be willing to be humbled. And I never thought about it like that. I always, because I'll do all the things, right? And I'll like every month I'll put something together. I'm like, oh, this is what I'm gonna share, and this is how I'm gonna share it. And I'm like you, all the thoughts start coming to my mind, and I'm like, I don't know. And then so usually what'll happen is I done had so many thoughts in my head that it completely goes blank. And so nothing goes out at all. And now I'm thinking like, oh, maybe I'm a little afraid of, being humbled in a way, and then what would that look like for you? Like when you are humbled, like what would that look like for you?
I'd like to think that I'd handle it in stride. I'm not, and no, it's just part of the game, right? It's just what we've got to do to live this online business life.
Mhm.
Um, but no, I have trouble with rejection. And I really have to prepare myself. I just finished this project and I just asked a few people close to me, hey, could you take a look at this and test it out for me? And I'm already, these are people I know and trust, and they know me and we get along. And I'm still like already preparing myself.
Like, oh my gosh.
It might not all be rainbow and sunshine, Debbie. It's okay. That doesn't mean you're a bad person. Like,
Hmm.
that whole because it's not. And it's important for us to be able to fail. And it's important for us to be able to get feedback. And it's important for us to be able to hear other point of views and recognize that ours isn't the only way. And it's going to take all of us to figure out this crazy transition to whatever we're transitioning to. I know we can't stay in this space forever.
Right.
Something else has got to be coming. I choose to believe it's going to be positive and good. So yeah, it's going to take us all being willing to be uncomfortable and share that space of
I say
transition.
share it, Debbie. It's a phrase I love. Don't worry, just do it. Literally. Don't think about it. Just do it.
Oh, I say don't overthink about it.
Seriously. Don't worry, just do it. Like, just do it. Sometimes when I put stuff together and I'm like, if I think about it, like I said, if I think about it too much, my mind will go blank.
Mhm.
So I've gotten to the point now where it's just like, okay, I put this together and I'm putting it out and I'm posting it. I don't care.
Mhm.
It's like I post and forget, and that's it. And then if somebody has a different point of view, great. I can accept that. And maybe
I
it's not the audience I need to reach.
exactly the like repel and attract, right? Your
Mm-hmm.
people finding you, the people that aren't yours are going away. And I also really like, I love that book, The Four Agreements.
Yeah.
And the one for me that was the biggest aha gut punch moment was don't take everything personally. What I had a tendency to do. And I'm still work in progress in that. I am so much better than what I was, but it's
And
still,
that's
and
worth
the reality is
celebrating.
it is, I think so, because it
Mhm.
isn't about me. And like when we're interacting with each other on the internet, it's so easy to misinterpret. That's the one reason I have difficulty showing up online is
Mm.
because I feel like I process differently. I feel like I'm a little neurospicy and undiagnosed. So often the way my words come out and the way I think it's sounding in my brain isn't the way people are receiving it. And I don't ever want to do harm. And so I get stuck in that loop. But then if I don't ever say anything, like, how is that serving
Mhm.
my people? Right? Not my people. That sounded very like my people, but like what we we're just
No, but
saying.
I know exactly what you meant though. And maybe they need a
Repel
little
and
bit of
attract.
that neural spice. It's nothing wrong with it at all. I don't think you're spicy. I think you're very sweet. So
Oh, thanks. Thank you. Here, folks.
yes. So yeah, your people will find you. Like you said, your people will find you. Those who are for you are for you. And if it doesn't sit well with somebody, again, we can be open to perspectives, but again, maybe
And
it's just
and
not for
that's
you.
and that's just part of it too,
Mhm.
recognizing and owning the fact that we're all a work in progress and
Mhm.
none of us are perfect. And if it gets misinterpreted, me being open to the idea of the person that might point that out to me is also trying to help. They're not attacking me.
Right.
And if I have an opportunity to shine a light on something that somebody else might, a blind spot for somebody, like I just happened on my podcast before, which is a little humbling, but it's important because I feel like it's teachable.
Mhm.
Like that's exactly why I have the podcast so that we can learn about these things. And I don't know
Yes.
everything. And so I think it's good.
Yeah. I like
At
that.
least I try to remind myself of that. No, this is good, Debbie. You're learning.
Yes. My dad says when you're not learning, there's a problem.
Mhm.
Well, as a coach, I've noticed a few things. Yeah, I've noticed a lot actually, even with myself. Now that I think about it, I had to take a pause there. But most women aren't lacking intelligence, right? They're not lacking ability. They're not lacking talent. They're overwhelmed. And I
Mhm.
can like speak from that for sure, right? They're carrying expectations, right? They're afraid of making the wrong decision. And then after a while, you might stop trusting yourself. So, why do you think so many women struggle to move forward, even if they know, like in that particular situation, they're unhappy?
It's that overwhelm.
Mhm.
It's that you said the expectations. We're living with all these expectations and we're not even sure which ones are ours
Mhm.
or which ones were handed to us by our culture, our family. Um, a, we were talking a little bit about systems and structures that benefit from us as women staying overwhelmed and stuck where
Mhm.
we are and completely disconnected. For me, it was that was a little bit of my work, is refiguring out when I was noticing it was getting close to my kids leaving the house. And now I'm not going to be a mom. And that was my entire identity. So obviously I was somebody before I was a mom. So
Mm-hmm.
trying to reconnect to that, because I think especially as women, we forego our needs for the needs of others. I'm
Yeah.
actually reading with my book club right now on our best behavior, which is all about the conditioning we
Ooh,
receive as women in our culture.
let me
She
write
ties
that
it to
down.
the 7 deadly sins. It's really good. And it's so prevalent in our upbringing. I'm American, United States, being raised as a woman in the United States, also going to be slightly different being raised as a woman of color in the United States. But all those things are impacting us every
Yeah.
single day. And that is, I feel like the biggest one is the suppression of who we are and what we need for the benefit of those around us, especially when we're a mom, because it does feel like it's so important. And it is hard to do both when you're raising kids and trying to stay connected to yourself. I don't
Yeah.
even know if it's possible. I couldn't do it.
It's hard.
I feel like younger women nowadays might have a little better finger on the pulse. That's actually happening. I had no idea it was even happening.
Yeah, it's hard. And I love talking about identity because so women, so like, and I remember asking somebody literally at work the other day, I was like, who are you? Because we define ourselves, right, by roles we play, whether it's mom, wife, employee, caregiver, our names, whether you got 7, 8 letters in your name, right, a business
Mm-hmm.
owner. And then, but thing is like, what happens when those roles change? Like, how do you
Uh-huh.
rediscover yourself when those roles change? Kind of similar to
Well,
what you're going through.
I feel like that's a part of why we don't handle change well, is because we're so attached to these identities that
Mm.
are from outside of ourselves as opposed to who we are intrinsically and what are
Yeah.
our core values. Shoot, I had a thought as you were talking and it just escaped me. I'm sure. It was about identity. You said you were talking to people at work, like, well, who are you? I remember because all my friends, peer group, started in the empty nest years. Someone was getting a divorce and talking like, well, what do you want to do? What do you want to do next? And it was always, I have no idea.
Right.
Completely like, I have no idea. And I was like, that makes a lot of sense. Like, because I didn't have any idea either. I don't think it's uncommon. We're
Because, like,
so
for the
busy.
longest, you're used to being mom, being a caregiver, being their nurse or their therapist or their doctors, like everything for them and putting your kids first. And then now it's, oh, it's my turn. And what does that look like? Hmm.
What does that mean? And how scary is that? And how
Right.
uncomfortable does that feel? And then some
Right.
people just transitioning straight from the caring for the kids to now caring for aging parents and still not finding the time for themselves. And yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah. So let's leave our listeners with something that they can actually do today. So if someone listening feels stuck, right? Maybe they've been sitting on an idea, maybe they need change. What's one piece of advice that you would give them?
I often encourage people to start with those regular tasks that you have the most resistance around, the ones that you're always telling yourself, well, I really should do that. Or even when you start saying, I have to, I have to. And someone's saying, I have to. I'm like, really? Do you have to? What's going to happen if you don't? And just get curious about those
I love that.
and see if those are really yours or if those tasks or priorities were given to you by somebody else or something that's not necessarily that important to you when it
I
gets right
love
down
that.
to it. I do have a freebie that it's actually 3 steps, but I say that is the first step is identifying, why do I feel like I have to do all these things? And because I think a lot of it is, as women, we can distract ourselves with the busyness
Yeah.
and we feel like we're accomplished if our days are super busy. But that just feeds that overwhelm
Yeah.
cycle. Because like I have to do all these things.
But
Oh
then you
wait,
burnt out.
huh?
But then
Then
you're
you're
burnt
burnt
out.
out and you can't do anything. You're not good to
Yeah.
anybody. Or you're just busy checking all the things off the list.
Yeah.
You're never taking the time to check in. Is this something I really want to do? Is this important to me? Is this helpful to me or anybody in that? No.
Well, I'm definitely going to ask you to share your freebie with me so I could drop it in the link for others to see because I think that was like I had to write it down. Start with your regular task that shows the most resistance and then ask yourself like where is it coming from? I think that's really important because it's like that's even when I was going to school, this like at one point I wanted to go to law school and I was trying to figure out like do I want to go to law school? I really want to go to law school. And I went and I took the LSAT and everything. And in reality, I never wanted to go to law school. My mom was just pushing that on me and I had to let
Mm-hmm.
that dream go. So I think that's really important. So
It's funny that you say that because my daughter had always really had plans to go to get her master's right after college. And she's in this space of reconsidering what she wants to do. And so I'm really try hard not to say anything that she might feel as pressure to like do one thing or the other because it's so easy for us as parents to say something offhanded and not think like we're pressuring them by any means,
right.
but they take it like, oh my gosh, I've got to do this thing because my
Yeah.
mom said.
Yeah.
So,
And that's where I was at because it was like I was stuck for the longest. Like, oh, I gotta go to law school. I gotta go to law
well,
school.
and she mentioned law, and I was like, well, that's interesting because I find it fascinating. And then I was like, okay, Debbie, calm down a little bit. She's going to take that as pressure, and this is her decision.
But it was so good that you could catch that. So it wouldn't like you wouldn't impose that pressure on her. It was really good that you could
It's
catch that.
so, I mean, it makes perfect sense that we raise kids when we're young, but it would be so much nicer if we can raise them when we have a little bit more wisdom and
Yeah.
a lot less, I don't know. Oh my gosh, this is so stressful and you want everything to be perfect for them.
Yeah.
It's like life is not perfect. It's going sideways constantly. They're going
Right.
to figure it out just like you figured it out,
So
you
just
know?
enjoy the ride.
Yeah, hopefully.
So I always encourage women to stop asking, right? What's the next perfect step? And instead ask yourself, what's the next right step? Because those are like two very different questions, especially if you're somebody like me that's like stuck in perfectionism. So if I'm like, what's the next perfect step? If nothing will ever be perfect. My dad says, you show me a perfect person and I will show you a perfect liar. So again, going back to my phrase, don't worry, just do it. So let's have some fun. Before we wrap it up, what's one word that describes this season of your life?
One word,
One? She's like, just one?
curious.
Yes. That's also what you said too. Be curious. I love curiosity. What's one book that everyone should read?
Ooh, I have already mentioned the Four Agreements, but I also have to put a plug in for I love Sarah Wilson. She's an Australian author, and I was first introduced to her work through her book, This One Wild and Precious Life, which talks about how we're going to show up during this time. It's very much focused on climate change, but it really covers all of the similar to Glennon Doyle's like Untamed, like how we as women are showing up and embracing all of our wisdom and abilities and not letting society stick us in those little
That part.
boxes.
Yes. I think that's really important. Are, um, are you a morning person or a night owl?
Oh, I am very much a night owl.
Really? Man, you can't get me to stay up past 11. I'm like, 'cause that is tough. The other night, I was watching a movie with my husband, and I was trying really hard. I was really trying hard. I was trying so hard to stay up, and in the
Well,
middle
you
of
are also growing another human right now, so
that part,
you probably need a little rest too.
as I swear, I don't even know what happened. I just started snoring, and he's like, "What?" I was like, "Yeah, I fell asleep." He was like, "Yeah." I'm like, "All right, all right." He said, "Sit up if you
You're
want."
like, I'm awake. I'm awake. What do you mean
I'm
I'm
like, "Yeah,
snoring? I'm awake. I'm watching it.
I'm gonna sit up. I'm gonna sit up." And I sat up. Before I knew it, my head was this way. I'm snoring again. He was like, "You know what? We're gonna turn it off. If you can't catch me in the morning, it's over." Do you like coffee or tea?
Oh, I like both, but and it's funny because I didn't start drinking coffee until I was like 35. It was likely because I was having some serious health issues that I didn't realize, so I needed that extra.
Hmm.
Uh, I discovered caffeine. I was like, oh, this is great. No wonder everybody loves it so much. And now it has become kind of a ritual for my morning. I'm not a morning person, so at least I have that to kind of
Get you over that edge.
get me going and put all my little potions together. And the smell is so nice.
Mm-hmm.
But I do like having a cup of tea in the evening. Not this time of year as much as when it's cooler.
It's kind of hot. What's something you've done recently that scared you?
Everything. You talk about you got to do something outside of your comfort zone every day. I was like, okay, check. Yeah, that happens pretty regularly.
Pretty regularly.
Yeah, I feel I'm getting more comfortable in the discomfort, but it's definitely there. I'm very much a work in progress, but I'm committed to staying curious and experimenting and seeing what happens because I am really drawn to contributing to solutions, being one of the helpers. I am not under any grand illusion that I'm going to solve any big problems, but I feel if I can make a couple little ripples in my corner of the world, I'll be happy. I get one or two people replying to my newsletter every once in a while, and that's who I'm helping. That's great.
I love that. What's one lesson you wish you learned 10 years earlier?
The not taking anything personally.
Yeah, that's a good one. And what does clarity mean to you?
Clarity. As someone who's an overthinker, I feel like clarity is an illusion. Right when I think about it, figure it out, it kind of changes anyways. So I'm not getting too wrapped around its necessity. Like being okay with the uncertainty.
Yeah.
And knowing that as I continue to play and explore, there will be clear moments. They might not last. And I will become more clear about who I am and how I'm supposed to show up. Not necessarily exactly what steps I'm supposed to take, but the essence.
Yeah.
And that's enough.
I love that. Debbie, thank you so much for sharing your story today. I know there are women that is listening who needed that reminder because I know I did, especially when you just said, and before you said it, I was thinking in my head when you was just like, being confident and comfortable in who you are. So I know there are women who are listening who needed this reminder that starting over isn't failure. Reinvention isn't failure. Choosing yourself certainly isn't failure. We had literally had this conversation not so long ago. And sometimes the bravest thing that we can do is to stop waiting until we have everything figured out and to just simply take the next step. And so if today's conversation resonated with you, if you've been feeling stuck, if you've been feeling overwhelmed of what's next, I want you to know that you don't have to figure it out alone. So Debbie, where is it that we can find you?
I'd like to say I'm not on the internet that much. No, I hang out on, you already know I'm on TikTok.
Yes.
But I post most regularly on Instagram. I'm on TikTok for consumption and shopping. Shh. I don't shop that much. I try to be a responsible consumer, but every once in a while that TikTok shop will be like, oh, you really need this.
Yeah.
You're right. I really do.
No, seriously. And then what is your name on Instagram?
New World Normal, because that's the name of my podcast.
Okay.
And my community of people who love questioning normal and disrupting it where it needs to be disrupted.
All right. So y'all make sure y'all listen to the New World Normal and check out on social media. Instagram is New World Normal. All right. Thank you so much for listening. If this episode encouraged you, be sure to share it with another woman who needs the reminder that clarity isn't something you wait for. It is something that you create. And I'll see you next time. Bye, y'all. Thank you for being here and taking this time for yourself. If this episode spoke to you, share it with someone who may need it too. And make sure you're following the podcast so you don't miss what's next.